So this is Matt from ZeroX. I'm chatting with Brian Flynn from Dapper Labs. Dapper Labs, if you don't know, is the creators of CryptoKitties and Cheese Wizards. And actually today we're going to be chatting about a new ZeroX improvement proposal called ZEIP-39, which relates to the static call asset proxy. Welcome, Brian. How's it going, man?
Thanks for having me, Matt. Excited to be here.
Awesome, man. So before we jump into it, I think it'd be good to give some background on the ZEIP static call asset proxy. So basically what it is it's a asset proxy, a smart contract for validating an order bundle during settlement through an arbitrary read-only callback. So basically the issue that it's trying to solve is when you're trading non-fungible tokens, NFTs, so this can be a CryptoKitty, a Maker CDP, etc., is that many of these assets are stateful, meaning their value is derived from the state at any given point. So if the state were to be modified during settlement, the value of the asset is also potentially modified. So basically what the static call asset proxy is it's a method for guaranteeing to the buyer of an asset that the state remains desirable throughout the entire trade settlement process. So basically a little bit going under the hood about how this is accomplished in ZeroX. Basically there's a ZeroX order schema, and one of the lines is maker asset data. Right now it's just referencing the token ID, and that's not necessarily the valuable part of the NFT. And so basically what we've done is modified it to basically be able to reference any of the properties within the token. So that can be, the CryptoKitty hat, the eyes, the breed count, really anything of the properties that you would find valuable. And so kind of a good example that I think kind of highlights why this is so important is, let's say, you want to sell a car and you put it out on the market, and then someone buys the car, and in between when they buy the car and when they drive it to you to pick it up from the lot, it's it's beat up and it's destroyed. And so that can happen in the NFT market too. So we're actually holding a ZRX token holder vote for this particular ZEIP in the coming weeks. So we'll have updates about that. Cool. Yeah, but let's jump into it now that we have some context. But before we kind of dig into the details of the static call asset proxy, just tell me a bit about yourself. How did you get interested in the non-fungible token NFT space?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in the NFT space for about 1.5 years now, since kind of the inception of CryptoKitties. I started a newsletter called the Nifty News, and I started writing about how consumers are going to enter the crypto space through NFTs. I got really interested in gaming when I was younger, played Counter-Strike professionally. So I was in the esports scene for a while, and then now gaming has really kind of been the crux of trying to get consumers interested in crypto in the first place. But now I think that decentralized finance has kind of taken over the narrative a little bit. But NFTs still hold some promise in a lot of ways. There are a lot of different interesting NFT games out there right now that are trying to cross the chasm from just a traditional pre-sale and then have NFTs kind of retain their value after a long period of time. So right now I work at Dapper Labs. Dapper Labs makes blockchain games at their blockchain game studio and tools and services as well. But what we're really interested in is kind of the concept of open ecosystems. So while a lot of other blockchain game studios are focused kind of towards getting the mainstream interested in NFTs and into crypto, we're more interested on building everything essentially decentralized as much as possible. So we have more of an on-chain mechanic with our games, whether that's breeding with CryptoKitties, with Cheese Wizards, it's a tournament, and we'll get into that in a bit. But it's really, how do we create an ecosystem around this mechanic that's on-chain, have developers and users play into it alike, and have it almost last forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was good you mentioned Cheese Wizards. I know people are pretty jazzed up about it. How's it going from your perspective?
Yeah, so we just closed the pre-sale a little over 1,000 ETH, so that was really exciting. Now we're getting ready for the next phase in the sales phase coming out later this summer. We'll have our tournament, and that should be really exciting because we'll be able to use things like the ZEIP as well during the tournament.
Awesome, cool. All right, well, let's segue into the static call asset proxy. Yeah, what do you think about it? What do you think the problems that it solves for the NFT space? Just want to get your general thoughts on
So
it.
from a high level, through the course of the last year, a lot of the data has been off-chain relatively for NFTs because the token ID was all that matters, as you mentioned earlier. But now we're seeing kind of the next stage of NFTs where you have this utility kind of built into the native token and have these properties on-chain. And that while that introduces some complexity on third-party sites, things like the new ZEIP can kind of help these new NFTs kind of make it trading a lot more safe in these marketplaces, right? So we weren't able to take these risks before with NFTs because these ZEIPs didn't exist, right? But 0x with the multi-asset proxy and this new ZEIP is making it really easy for us to create these new NFTs with things like with Cheese Wizards and have users trade safely.
Nice, nice. So just what do you think would be kind of an example? Maybe walk me through one that like Dapper Labs or another NFT project.
Cheese Wizard specifically, there's the concept of power, right? So when you summon a Cheese Wizard, you have an associated power with it, right? And so as you go and fight during the tournament, your Cheese Wizard can either gain or lose power based off if your wins or loses. But if you're putting your Cheese Wizard on sale while you're battling and you lose power, the taker isn't going to want to accept the trade anymore, right? Because it's not what it signed up for, essentially, right? So this makes it really useful that you can't scam someone after you lose a battle, right? You don't want to have players who are entering a trade and then immediately battling just to kind of hedge their bets a little bit. So it's really useful in that regard.
Interesting, yeah. Definitely excited to hear that. Definitely don't. I have a couple Cheese Wizards. Definitely for to play the game and also speculative reasons. So I would want to the seller to get the deal that they think they're getting. So that's good. Cool. And then just like expanding out a little bit, more generally, like what are you excited about in the NFT space for the next year or so? Like what exciting developments do you kind of seeing coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, I think we'll see this continuation of this two sides of NFTs, right? We'll see the NFTs that kind of have these major IP stakeholders involved. We just saw like F1, we saw Star Trek recently, right? We'll see this kind of collectible aspect to it where only the token ID and then the metadata with IP brand matters. But then we're going to see this other side, which is where Cheese Wizard is going. So where this NFT is really its own ecosystem, right? Where developers are kind of using that token ID and its properties to build additional value into it, right? So first it started with the Kittyverse. With the Kittyverse was kind of like an extension of CryptoKitties, where it felt kind of built-in value for the users. But we'll have that for for Cheese Wizards as well, right? So developers are going to be building in value using the tournaments contract, right, to enhance the value of the Cheese Wizards themselves, right? So in this sense, that developers are creating the gameplay along with us for the users to enhance the value of the NFTs themselves, right?
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think that was one of the coolest parts about like CryptoKitties was someone made like hats for the CryptoKitties and like added on to the existing work that your team did. Can you kind of maybe give us some insight into like what you're already seeing maybe for the Cheese Wizard kind of ecosystem along the same lines as that? Like, is there anything kind of outside developers have been building?
Yeah, we'll have more information soon on kind of what we've seen from developers and their interest so far. But we'll hopefully have some information on that in the next month or so.
Awesome. Cool. Any other kind of like NFT related projects that you? I know you work for Dapper Labs. What other kind of cool things are you seeing in terms of other projects?
Other cool things in NFT space. Thing in particular, I mean, these days it's really about DeFi, but what I'm most excited for is kind of the intersection between DeFi and NFTs and blockchain gaming. Someone during ETH New York made a V-line deposit with turning CryptoKitty into compound finance and earning interest in it. I think you'll see an intersection where users are putting their NFTs in collateral, especially with the release of the multi-collateral DAI. And then people will be able to earn, DAI or ETH just for playing games in the first place by using these decentralized finance protocols, right? So it's more of a long tail effect where you'll see these kind of ecosystems being built over time, and then just when these DeFi protocols kind of have their next contracts online, they'll be able to plug into each other. So that should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, I think a lot of people in the space think of like, NFTs gaming in like one silo and like DeFi in another silo. But I feel like very much, as you just said, like they're very intertwined and can be very intertwined going forward. So really cool to see that.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I think that's about it for today. Thanks for your time and your insight. I really appreciate it when it comes to NFTs. I know you're pretty prolific with the Nifty, newsletter and like on Twitter. So glad we got a chance to chat. And then for all the ZRX token holders, again, we're having a vote on ZEIP-39. So hopefully you can participate. Cool. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Take care.